So UCS 2.1. UCS 2.1 was a major upgrade of the UCS. So we went from 2.0 something to 2.1. 2.0 is still a maintained software release. So you can still update your 2.0 series software code with a newer version of 2.0. So a more recent version code is the currently I think the most used one in that 2.0 frame, and that is 2.05 and then some letter behind it. The 2.05 range is the first one in the 2.0 series that supports Java 7. So a lot of people have issues with Java 6 right now because of all the security holes in it, and a lot of updates have been rolling out, and even operating systems like OS X have been blocking Java 6 for a long time, depending on which release you're running. But 2.05 supports Java 7. That helps a lot in the whole updating and the whole accessibility of the system. So that is a preferred release right now. Then in 2.1, we're currently at 2.13 and then a letter. 2.13 and then some letter behind it. That is of course also running in Java 7, but in the most recent version of Java 7, in the latest update, we have an issue with HTTPS. So if you're running HTTPS to your system, you will not be able to open the Java 7 UCS manager. So that is big of an issue. I'm not sure if there is already a newer version of Java 7 available that solves this, but HTTPS will cause you some issues right now. And there's no real fix for that. The UCS Delmar will not be a major upgrade. I believe it's just a minor upgrade. So a minor upgrade still meaning we do support a lot of new features, but it will not be as big as the 2.1 update. So in 2.1, some really basic concepts changed with the major topic of fiber channel zoning, but Delmar is, I think, the 2.14 release from the top of my head, or 2.15 or something. It's not going to be the major upgrade. It's not going to be 2.2. So it will change some things, but they will be just features, just newer hardware support and all kinds of stuff. And there will be some scalability updates and stuff. Things like UDLD will now be supported. But I'm not very sure about roadmap information. This is still a CCIE test, so currently we only test on the current releases. The 2.14 is a roadmap item. It's coming out very soon actually, but I'm not very sure when. So some new features will be introduced, but it's a minor upgrade, not a major. Most importantly, I will tell you what to focus on, the differences between 2.0 and 2.1 that you might need to focus on for the lab. Because as you know, the lab blueprint currently states 2.x as the UCS software version, meaning that it can be any version in the 2 series. So that's going to be an issue because this can of course be 2.0 and this can be the 2.1. Current information shows that 2.05 is the release that they're running, just to support the B200M3 blades. And that is the reason why they have the 2.05 installed now, instead of the 2.02X or 2.02Q or something. And 2.1 is still an option, so they might introduce that at some later stage, but they will have some notification about that. Not a 6-month notification, but there will be some notification at least that they have to do that, because that introduces a lot of new features. It introduces some new features. Exactly, they can change it in a few months, so be aware of the changes there. So, major features that changed in 2.1. Well, first of all, our port allocation or interface allocation changed. It's not a lot, but when you first see it, it will show a little bit different overview. We moved some pools. So we moved the location of some of the pools. So that is something you need to pay attention to, because then some things will be moved where you wouldn't expect it to be. We have a concept of some new pools that we can use, some new pooling features that we can introduce. We have a thing called LAN connectivity policies. So a new type of policy. We also have that for SAN, of course, so LAN and SAN connectivity policies. So new policies. Of course, the most important change is fiber channel zoning, which is now supported to be doing on the UCS itself, and even inheriting that between blades and storage. Software upgrades. We have a new tool to do software upgrades. We can run fiber channel over Ethernet uplinks. As I mentioned before, we can only do, currently in 2.0, we can only do fiber channel over Ethernet between the fabric interconnect and the blade itself. So there's no way to break out on FCOE, so it's just between the FI and the blade, so it's all internally. When I break out to my network, it's going to be either Ethernet or fiber channel, not FCOE in 2.0. We changed that in 2.0, so we now support FCOE uplinks, but also FCOE appliances, just like we support fiber channel appliances. And then finally, we have a new way of doing disjoint layer 2 by using VLAN groups. So the next generation of disjoint layer 2 is going to be using the VLAN groups feature. So quite a lot of new features in there, or some updated features, and I want to run you through all of them. So first, interface allocations. When we start looking at our interfaces, I mean with that is the interfaces on the fabric interconnects. So in this case, I have my fabric interconnect A and my fabric interconnect B. And then instead in the 2.0 release, I saw all these different ports, right? So my Ethernet uplink ports, my server ports, my this ports, my appliance ports, all of the different ports. Now I just see a difference in Ethernet and fiber channel, making it a lot easier because there's less to configure, or there's less overview. So that is the first change. So I no longer look for certain ports in certain folders. All my ports are just here, and based on the role, I can see what they're doing. So I set my role to be a server port or a network port. The allocation of it doesn't change, so I just right click and I can say, all right, configure this now as a server port, an uplink port, or as a Ethernet appliance port. So that is my first change. And then I can filter here where I had all these separate groups in the previous release. I can now filter here on, I do not want to see the unconfigured ports here, or I do want to see them. So all these different features I now have available, or all the different views I still have available. It's just shown a little bit differently. As for fiber channel, same thing. They didn't change anything about the fiber channel implementation. They just changed some things about the Ethernet implementation. Looking at ports on the LAN and the SAN tab, nothing changed. So we still have our interfaces, we still have our port channels, they still run LACP. And as said before, in the Delmar release, we're now able to run UDLD in the system. So, very good things to talk about. So, interface allocations are done here. So that is just how I allocate interfaces now.